So we will be starting. I did want to note, just make sure that everybody can hear me. And if you cannot hear me correctly, or if you cannot see my screen correctly, if you would log out and log back in. I have talked to some of my colleagues who are monitoring this, and my they can see my webinar and they can hear me fine. So if you're having a problem, if you would log out and log back in, that would be great. And it's just a couple minutes past 11, so I am going to start 11 my time at least. I'm in the West Coast, but we will start with the webinar, so we can get you in and get you out on time. So I want to thank you all for joining this webinar on the steps involved in migrating from an existing on-premise application to Oracle ERP Cloud. You're seeing my agenda, and as the agenda shows, we'll be looking at our clients' reasons to migrate, the planning involved in the process, and the benefits derived from the migration. The client, Dora, will also provide tips and hints that she and her company have learned as a result of the migration. Lastly, she will discuss what lies ahead for them now that they have been live for a while. Finally, we will open up the floor to you, the attendees, to see if you have questions for CTR and Dora. For the sake of time and the continuity of the discussion, we will not be answering questions during the discussion, but if you have questions, please feel free to include them in the Q&A area, and we will address them at the end of the webinar. Or if you prefer, you can address them to me at dkenny@ctrworld.com, and I will get back to you with an answer. We are recording this webinar, and this recording will be included in our YouTube channel, and that's Computer Technology Resources YouTube channel. And for those who are attending, we will send you the link when it's available. It'll take me about a day or two to get that on the channel, but after that, you will have access to it. Okay. I just want to give a brief introduction to me, about me. My name is Dick Kenny. I've been in the ERP planning, ERP field for more than 20 years, both as a user and as a consultant. I have a background in accounting and was a controller of a company that implemented Oracle ERP, EBS, many, many years ago. I have worked for CTR for a little more than 10 years, assisting clients in implementations and ongoing support. And joining me is Dora Kovalubias. She's Vice President of Business and Application Support Manager for Pacific Western Bank. I've known Dora for many years. Like me, she has years of experience working with many applications, both as a user and also within the IT support role. She is very hands-on and has no problem rolling up her sleeves to make things happen. Dora was instrumental in taking her organization from an on-premise application, EBS, Oracle's EBS, to the cloud for both back office and a lot of front office applications. Dora, would you like to say anything else about yourself?
Yes, good morning. Hi. Thank
Hello.
you, Dick, for the introduction.
No
So
problem.
yes, I've been with Pacific Western Bank since 2004. I've known Dick and Pankaj from CTR since 2006, I believe, 2005, somewhere around there, when we first put in our EBS solution. So I have worked with EBS and now the cloud. I have also worked with Hyperion and a few other systems, PeopleSoft. So pretty much well versed in the Oracle world. So yeah, good morning, and look forward to this meeting, and whatever questions you may have, I do my best to answer them.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. As you can tell, both Dora and I started when we were 18, so we're both very young, at least mentally, if not physically. Okay, so we'll go on to the next. I thought I'd give you a little bit of an idea of who we are, who CTR is. CTR has been in business consulting and technology space for about 22 years, and we've seen just about every configuration and combination of a business system. For example, we've worked with PeopleSoft, Oracle EBS, Tableau, Magento, AWS, Azure, and a host of other softwares. Our consultants have over 15 years of experience in working with and supporting business applications, such as ERPs like Oracle Cloud ERP and NetSuite, as well as e-commerce and business intelligence. We have functional development and infrastructure employees located around the globe that provide 24/7 support for our clients. And here are some of the industry verticals that we've worked with during our time in business. We have a strong focus on best business practices. So not only do you get the technical expertise that you need, but we can also make sure that the best practices are sewn into your business systems and processes. We firmly believe that the key to laying a foundation for business growth is standardizing where you can while extending your system to take advantage of your particular core competencies. To do this, you need to have strong industry and application experience. We can offer you both. Okay, we're going to get into the meat of this. I didn't really want to spend a lot of time talking about CTR, but I just wanted to give you an idea of who we are and why you're listening to this webinar, and hopefully that you'll get something out of this. So really, this is going to be the start of the discussion between Dora and myself and all of you. This is projected on the screen are some of the reasons that Dora's company decided to go up to the cloud. And I just thought I would ask, so what I'm going to do is be asking you some questions, and then if you could respond the way you would like to. So Dora, what made you decide to migrate from Oracle EBS instead of upgrading to the updated version of the EBS product like 12.2.9?
Okay, so from our end, our hardware was due for replacement. So we were past our life cycle on the hardware. So they brought it up, our IT team brought it up. It's a time. Do you want to upgrade? And we'll, at that time, we'll upgrade to the newer version of EBS, or are we doing something else? And our business chimed in, and they wanted to have a cloud solution. They wanted something a little bit more different UI feel, something easier to use, a lot nicer on the reporting side, be able to create reports and work with reports. They also wanted more of a seamless interface between the cloud, Oracle Cloud versus Hyperion Cloud, and some of our other interfaces. So we did our due diligence. We went through and with Gartner and looked up the main cloud applications out there. Of course, AWS was out there, Oracle was out there. And we also looked at other solutions similar to EBS, just like PeopleSoft, and even though we knew we weren't going to go to that, but we did bring everything out on the table, and we did our due diligence. And after reviewing some of the security with Oracle Cloud versus AWS, our security team was very vital in our research and our due diligence, and they didn't really like the AWS from a security perspective. So we removed that. We removed PeopleSoft. We went down our list and removed. And Oracle was definitely up on the top for the cloud. So we had, a few more demos with regard to how does this work, how do the roles work, because that's another big thing for us, the security, the roles and the users. So that came up, and how does the reporting work? How does auditing work? Everything was brought out on the table for discussion. And it seemed to fit for us. So we went with Oracle ERP Cloud. That's how we kind of came to our decision.
Okay, great. Thank you. What I'm going to do, if you don't mind, I have a polling question that I'm going to send out to the audience and see what their opinions are on a few items. So I'm going to launch the first question of the poll, and I'm going to make it available to the panelists as well so they can see it. And the first one, are you currently on an ERP application? And I would like, if you don't mind, I would like people to select the appropriate answer. Great. And I will now, so I did get the answers, and we'll make those public when we talk about the when we talk a little further into the webinar. Thank you very much for responding to the poll. Okay, the next topic we're going to have is planning. It's near and dear to both Dora and myself. You select some of these questions you've kind of already answered, but we'll go over them again just to make sure that everything does get responded to. But you selected ERP Cloud as your product to which you would migrate. Did you look at alternative software?
Yes, we did. We looked, like I said, to different, we looked at AWS, we looked at PeopleSoft, we looked at other items. Mm-hmm. We didn't look at SAP because we know SAP's more geared towards manufacturing, which we knew we're a bank, mm-hmm. So we didn't look at that. But we did, yes. Okay. And you actually had Oracle come in and demo the product prior to deciding to go with them, because you were kind of an early on the cloud, so I understood the reason for that. But what were your major areas of concern that you needed Oracle to demo and discuss in more detail? So from an IT perspective, like I mentioned before, one of the main things was the security, of course, because now we're on the cloud versus us having it in-house, right, and having our own servers and maintaining our security within our bank server. So the security was big for us, so we had them demo that. From a business side, we had them demo the reports, how easy it was to use the reporting tools, the UI, you know, the upfront, because of course it looks a lot different than what we have in EBS. It looks more of a phone and they have icons, and so the UI was very pleasing to the users. It was easily, readily available. Like, I mean, you know, the user can go everywhere with the little toggling back and forth. In certain instances where we had EBS, we would have to toggle out and go to another company. In this one, everything's all in the same place, which made it a lot nice. Also, we went through the security roles, and they mentioned to us how easy it is to customize a security role, because we have, because of our segregation of duty, we have to make sure that we have a good amount of people separated in their daily processes. So the roles are very important to us as a bank. So that was also explained to us. And then just the overall process, you know, how easy it is for cloud. They went through the patching. They went through all the different things that, you know, all the questions we had. They answered them proficiently. So, you know, we had a few demos before we made our decision. We just didn't take it lightly. We went and again, you know, sat with them and made sure all our questions were answered.
Greta, I remember security being a major issue for you. In fact, you had a specific demo with specific Oracle key people just to go over security. Being a bank and being on the kind of forefront of a SaaS model, it was important to you to make sure that you and Oracle addressed all your security issues. I remember that was a major issue for you, as it would be for almost everybody, but certainly as a bank. And certainly, obviously, Oracle answered that, or you would not be on the cloud. Once you made a decision to migrate to Oracle ERP Cloud, you had to select an implementation partner. After a false start, which you can get, you know, which you can explain a little bit, you selected CTR as that partner. Can you explain why you went with us and why that was such a critical decision for you?
Yes, actually, we selected two partners. We selected CTR because we've been involved with CTR, again, our bank since 2006. So CTR has actually created they created our EBS and now our ERP Cloud application. They know our customizations, they know how we work, they set up specific reports that they know we need. They're very hands-on with our bank. So so we knew CTR was going to be involved in the conversion, and primarily from a historical perspective to go through what we already had and how we would convert it into the cloud. Now, we did select a tier 1 Oracle Cloud partner, specifically cloud knowledge for that implementation. But unfortunately, after a few weeks of setting up some meetings with that particular partner, it didn't work out. That partner didn't really know much, and all the questions that our business team members had kept getting, they were just getting either no response or a response that didn't really make sense. So our business lead, our business head, he was extremely frustrated, and he came to Posier and I and said, "No, I don't want the tier 1 partner anymore. We're just going to go with CTR." And CTR seems to know the cloud better than even the tier 1 partner. So unfortunately, we lost the tier 1, which was fine, and CTR took over. CTR took over, and they migrated us exactly how we wanted. Our business was extremely pleased. They knew what to do. They got in there and put everything back together, even though it's in the cloud, so it's a little different because we can't configure and do a lot of those customizations, but they figured out how to have alternate solutions for us, and they have worked out really well. So that was our decision, and that's how we went with CTR.
Okay, great. Thanks, Dora. It's always nice to get that pat on the back.
Yep.
We've talked many times about the need for testing and training. And can you explain your approach to these tasks and why you think they made the migration so successful?
Yes. So from our end, okay, so on our side, we gave ourselves a year for the implementation. Part of it was the business wanted to make sure too that we covered everything and that we had, all our bells and whistles in order. So we gave ourselves a year for that. But we also took it a step further. I did. We got a room, like a training room that we had, and we reserved that room for the whole year, specifically for our team. So we were able to remove the people, our SMEs, our subject matter experts, from their day-to-day tasks and bring them into this room, which made better sense for us to go into the cloud. And they were able to then do the test scripts and the reviews and kind of separate them from their day-to-day so they could concentrate, which worked out really well. We did everything. We did check printing. We did reports. We did reviews of everything. I mean, it was really nice, and it took away from their day-to-day, so they were able to just specifically concentrate on that. And then of course we had the training. We had various intervals of training. We had the CRP1, we had the CRP2, and we had the full training. So the training, to me, I would like it, or we usually do it towards the end, right before we migrate, just to make sure people are fresh and they know exactly what we went over. But we had a few little mid-training sessions in between just to kind of get people ready. And we brought them in specifically to their module. We had the training sessions for GL, for FA. So we did a lot of planning in that, along with CTR's help, to make sure that we covered everything and that we covered the specific modules for everybody, and we brought in the proper people for those modules. And so it worked out really nice. But again, it does take a little planning, and it would be wise, if you can, to get a separate room to plan all this in. That way it removes them from their day-to-day tasks for, a few hours. And, for us, it worked out really, really well.
Yeah, and the nice thing about kind of combining testing and training in a lot of the same ways was that we were getting the testing process done as if they were live. So it covered a very broad scope of transactions. Oftentimes when you're doing testing, the people doing the testing are doing what they know. And so it doesn't have, you're not testing the entire spectrum of eccentricities, things that you run into once, twice, 3 times a month. And so it was nice, the people coming in to test to, like, say, journals or payables or one of the others, was where they were testing what happens if this happens, what happens if that happens. It was much more thorough because we had a wide range of people doing the testing and the training. And one of the nice things about it was when the bank went live, it was actually kind of anticlimactic because they had had so much access to the test instances, they did not have to spend, it was not new to them. The navigation was a little bit better. The number of subject matter experts expanded so that it wasn't one person being deluged with questions when they went live. So it made for a very broad base of knowledge. And that's why we consider this process to be successful, because we did not get a lot of blowback after the client went live. Is that sort of your impression as well, Dora?
Yes, it is. Yes, and another thing that was very important is we kept the issues log. Of course, I was the one that maintained that, but I kept an issues log with all the issues that came up during all those various training/testing sessions. And then if it didn't work the first time, I made sure we retested. Like, okay, now we're on CRP2. Let's go test that again. And so this kind of repetitive training, testing, if you will, helped. And like you said, people got like, oh, I can do this. And they became a little bit more, like you said, subject matter experts, which was nice. So we kept that log. We made sure things were done. And then we were able to close it, and it worked. So yeah, post live, I mean, we had a few minor things. Again, mainly security, because our business team lead decided to grant a little bit more security than normal, just to make sure. And then, of course, when we went live, we found that they didn't need the security, or they got a little too much, or maybe they didn't get something they needed. So we revised the security with the help of CTR. But that was pretty much it. We didn't have too many issues going post live. It worked out really well, and so we didn't have any problems after we went live.
And that's the way we want it, of course. Of course,
Yep.
by security, what Dora is referring to is the roles and what people can access, what tasks. And yeah, that was it was more iterative. We gave them what we thought they wanted, then we either expanded or curtailed that access depending upon what they needed. And the nice thing about it is post go live, they have done a number of audits, and their independent auditors as well as their internal auditors are happy with the result, that they are gaining the access without having SOD violations. So it worked well. The planning that was done ahead of time allowed them to go through the process pretty easily. And that's why the planning is the second topic that we're talking about, because it's so important to plan. It's so important to bring in your subject matter experts early on and get them involved and get them in the process. I do some of the training, and I assist in some of the testing. So that's why it was important for me as well as them. And that's why what Dora's talking about with her list, with her tickets, is that was certainly a partnership. She tracked it, she did all that work, and we made sure that we addressed her issues that she raised. And that was a good process. It was at times time consuming. It was a lot of work for Dora, but the end result was when we went live, the users were happy, and they're happy with the product. That's the important part. If you could, can you summarize your migration experiences? What worked, what did not, and how did you resolve those things that did not work?
Sure. So first of all, we came in, we were only a week past our due date, so we came in pretty good with regard to the timing, and we were under budget, so that was really nice too. The management was excited about that. We also are some of our benefits, of course. Again, the UI, everybody's happy with the UI, the user interface, and people can get in. The other thing, it's a URL. We just need the URL to get in. We don't need, anything installed or special, on behind the scenes where we would get access, but yet we need certain things installed on our PCs or a certain Java or there's nothing like that. It's just the URL and we could get in, which was really nice. The paperless accounts payable process, we just scan. We do have another partner called Ascend that we use for our optical integration with the accounts payable invoices. So the OCI, we use them, and then it comes in and we go through and it gets into Oracle. So we have that interface coming in. But the AP also, the flow for the AP for management approval was definitely another part that was very well received, because the managers, the upper management for approval, they just go in to get an email, they approve from the email, and they're done. They don't even have to go into Oracle to do it. They just click on the email and approve it, and it sends it into Oracle. So they were definitely well pleased with that. Also, our reporting, that we have, the reports are easier to get. We run them. We don't have to save them anywhere. We just, run our reports, and, people are able to use the reports. We have the BI publisher reports. We have the scheduled CAN reports. So, and then we also took it a step further and built like a data warehouse, and they built some reports off of that. So we have reports coming from everywhere, and they seem to be working for the accounting/finance department, which is nice. Also, the other big thing for us within Oracle, we have the Oracle chart of accounts, of course, and then there's a S-based cube that comes in within the Oracle ERP cloud. So the balances, it doesn't show all the features or all the dimensions, if you will, that we have in the Hyperion cloud, but it shows enough for the users to work at month end. They can see their balances right away. Everything's real time. So that little cube that we have embedded within Oracle is a big hit for the finance and accounting departments. And they can work on their month-end close/quarter-end close via that one. And of course, we also went live with the Oracle Hyperion Cloud shortly thereafter. I think we went live in July of 2018, and they went live in April of 2019. So they went live right away, right behind us. And so that also, we send data to those cubes, which is nice. And they have a few more dimensions, more data, but the accounting department can close now right away using the embedded S-based cube, which is really nice. So that was another great feature. The other nice feature, even though it was hard at a little bit, like Dick said at the beginning, but patching was a big deal for us, because we were used to doing it in-house, and we would dictate the timing and dictate setting up the process with the accounting finance teams. Now we don't really have a choice. Oracle does it every quarter, and you're going to do it, or you're not going to, you have to do it unless you have a good excuse. They may be able to extend it for a month or so, but either way, you're going to get the patches. So that took a little bit for us to get used to, but now it's a breeze. It's like we know every quarter, we know what we have to test. We get the changes that Oracle sends over, some enhancements and or modifications. We read those before we do the patching. We test for 2 weeks. So we have it now. We have it down pat. I mean, it's really nice. Those are a few things. We did have one big thing when we went live, right before actually we went live with the printer. The printer setup was a little bit of a task for us because it had a certificate, and it had some other items that we had to set up with our IT, like a firewall with our IT team. But it wasn't bad, and now we don't even need the certificate now. So now with the version that we're on, so it's getting better. But we were able to resolve it right away, because of course we had to print checks. But I think that was the biggest hurdle for us, with the whole process, with the whole project. Other than that, everything else seemed to be pretty good. I mean, you have your few things here and there, but nothing critical that brought us down to our knees. Everything went very well, thank God, and thanks to CTR. So we didn't really have too many issues.
Yeah, so, I think one of the things that was there were two things I brought out of that was that, one, we were able to reduce the number of in EBS they were called responsibilities. We were able to reduce those significantly and simplify the process and get much more into a shared accounting environment, where we reduced them from probably 100 or so responsibilities that were difficult to maintain down to a very small number that actually meet their needs better and are easier for us to maintain. And now, even when we have changes in staff or organization, these roles seem to work for them equally. And
Yes,
we changed them. Go ahead.
that's a good point. Yeah, because before, like I said, we used to have security roles for, like, if we have our bank and then we had our parent, we had roles for the bank and roles for the parent. And now you were able to put them all in one. We don't have to toggle in and out of a bank to go to a parent. It's all, you guys were able to include it all in one, and the cloud allows us to just also stay in the same session without logging out, which is really a nice feature. Yes.
Right. And one of the second item that I was going to talk about was the integrations. I mean, like most companies, the bank has a lot of third-party applications that they have to bring into the cloud, primarily into either payables or the general ledger or someplace, or HR. And originally, we were very concerned about how flexible Oracle would be with that, because going up to a SaaS model, of course, there was a lot of talk about that. But we were able to accomplish pretty much, or improve pretty much all of their integrations into and out of Oracle Cloud pretty easily. And now, as they change their third parties, or as they change their needs, it works fairly well. Oracle has a good tool that that we can use to create these integrations, and then the bank has their scheduler and a couple of other tools that they use to do this, and the interchange between the two. It causes Dora some sleepless nights sometimes, but it all works well. Wouldn't you say, Dora?
Yes, yeah, that was also, I mean, it's worked out better than I thought. Yes,
Yeah.
you're correct, because at first I was a little bit concerned, and we did have to, to get the Oracle ICS application or software as well. So we have the Oracle ERP Cloud, the Oracle ICS for those integrations and reports, and then we also have our bank global scheduler named Atomic. So all those three work hand in hand, and
Yep.
and it, like you said, Dick, at first it was a little bit like, wow, how are we going to do this? Like, I'm going to put it all together again. But it worked out really nice, and we even have additional control emails for the balancing, both inbound and outbound. And so that also is good for audit, because they can see that we're balancing our items before they even go to the cloud or from coming out of the cloud. So that's worked out really nice. And again, that's mainly CTR Emil. I have to give Emil kudos. He's done a great job with that. So yep. So that's definitely, and once in a while we do have those sleepless nights when things crash. But overall, it's been also very good. We have a good handle on it, which is really nice. So
Good.
Yep.
That's always good to hear. Well, we're going to get into, and we've talked about a little bit of these, but we'll get into some of the tips and hints that that we've encountered, or certainly that Dora has encountered in her process. And do you want to cover some of these, Dora? And then if you want to have a conversation, we can do that as you go.
Sure. I mean, I guess like we mentioned before, some of the tips, like get your SMEs, your subject matter experts on the project. We had to do a little bit of that backfill, so where we had maybe 10 people in the AP, we bring 5 or at least half the staff into the room and leave the other 5 to do the day-to-day tasks. And they would take turns, right? So everybody got a little bit of the training as well. So it wasn't the same 5 always covering, but it helped. And I know sometimes it's hard because we don't have a lot of people, but you kind of figure out a way to at least, get 1 or 2 of your best people that know the application and the module really well, so they could come in and do the testing and do the, the preparing of the test scripts, so that is very good. Again, if you can, it would be good to reserve a room separate away from the day-to-day, from their department, so they're not that close and get bothered with day-to-day items. You still may get people that get phone calls while they're in the room for emergencies, you can't help that. But if you can reserve a room separately, that's a good tip to do. Also maintain your issues log. I had an issues log, and again, it mentions here all the CRP, all the pilots. We had one while we were in pilot 1, pilot 2. What items come out of those pilots? We logged them, and then we would retest to make sure. And I kept a log of what we had done, what we retested, if it worked, and if it didn't, we kept it, and we actually tackled those post conversion. Now my issues log is down to just a few items that have come up recently. But we did go through all of our items with the business and with CTR. It's like, okay, what about this? What happened to this? Do we need this? And some stuff come up and you realize, oh, I don't need to do that anymore because I have a newer process. And it's like, okay, we can close that issue because that was all in the EBS world. But now with the Oracle world, it's a little bit different, and you see your process change. So the issues log is very important. And also, you give yourself some time to train. Again, I like to do the training prior to going live, but you do want to give yourself enough time to train. We had a training session with our SMEs, right, with all our per module, and then we also did a training session for the high level users, like again, the approvers. What were they going to do? Because now we're in the cloud. How does it work? How does it look? So you also have to make time for that training for your management user level. Even if they're just going to approve an invoice, but now we had to show them it's going to come this way via the email. It's going to look like this. You just click here, and they're like, oh, okay. So we had those training sessions. A lot of those were done by the business team, by Shane Keene, who's our business guy. He did it via like a web meeting, and he brought in the higher upper management to show them how that would work, and it worked out really well. So of course you have to plan for that as well, and then you plan for your post live. Make sure you're going to be covered for issues. Make sure you get your team ready and things come up. Primarily that was my team. The issues would flow through my area, and then I would then bring in CTR, and but those are some of my tips, Dick. So hopefully.
No, that's great. That's exactly what I was hoping we would cover. That's great. Okay. So that's our tips and hints. And then what was next? Obviously, you've been live for a little bit of time now, and right now you're planning on a migration. Oracle has introduced a new integration tool. So you're planning on migrating from Oracle's existing integration tool up to the new one, and that's in the plannings pretty much now, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, we're hoping to start. We have a meeting next week with Oracle, so we're hoping to start in the month of October. Now that we're in October, they have a newer version of the ICS, which is called OIC, and it's supposed to be a little better and work a little differently. DR is included inside of it, which is really nice. So they have a lot of new features. So we're going to go live with that. They're telling us it's about a 4-month process. You're hoping it takes around that time, maybe a little more, but we're going to take our time, make sure everything works. We won't cut over until everything's good and we test it. Again, a lot of planning, even though this is somewhat seamless to the business. As far as them being involved, it's more for my team. It's all of the integrations, all of the interfaces, all of the reports. It will affect the business, of course, once we go live, because then they're waiting for the results, right? But they won't be involved with regard to the testing. It'll be primarily my team with CTR and Oracle to make sure that everything is converted, everything's running, and everything works. And then we're also looking to expand our audit policies, which is another big thing. We already had one report created from an audit perspective to show when our GL periods open and closed. Audit likes to look at all these things, so we've already had that report created, and we're looking for other reports, to be created from an audit perspective, like any kind of audit trail that we can leverage from. We will create some reports, and then we're also looking for maybe some AP enhancements down the future with regard to how to process our AP payments. We have a few customers that are, hey, look at our product. You can use a credit card type payment. So I know the business is always looking for that. So I know that's probably coming our way as well. but these are the two main ones that we have in line right now.
Yeah, and the nice thing about this migration from ICS to OIC, I know it's a lot of initials, but the nice thing about that is Oracle's been very proactive on supporting that transition, which has been nice. It's not, they didn't just introduce a tool and say go to it. They're willing to partner in getting that knowledge discussed. And to the extent as say Dora was planning that there's a kickoff meeting or at least a introduction meeting next week by Oracle to introduce the tool and introduce some of the process. So they've been good. They've been a good partner in that respect, both from a client, from CTR's perspective, and from Oracle's perspective. And so that's always nice to hear that they support the product that they are migrating from to, and all.
Yep.
Well, what I thought was we've gone on for a while, and we have about 15 minutes left. And what I wanted to do was go to the question side, and my colleague Nash has actually been tracking the Q&A. And Nash, are you available?
Absolutely, Dick.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, and so if you could read out some questions that you've been getting and see if put Dora on the spot and see if she can answer them for you.
Oh, Dora's been excellent so far, so I'm sure she'll have no trouble with these. So the first one I have from the audience is, Dora has Pacific Western Bank. Have you found any advantage to the subscription model for ERP Cloud versus traditional licensing, maintenance, and the implementation?
So this is more of a license question.
Yeah, subscriptions versus maintenance, I think, and yes.
Yeah. So yeah, because now we pay for just the, like you said, subscription license count. We're not paying for database maintenance or any kind of additional maintenance charges, hardware. So we still have, just so you know, we still had to create a on-premises server for the data. So, and some of you may or may not have to, but we had to because that's kind of our staging table server. So we needed to bring the data from the vendors, like in our interface from, let's just say, telecom interface. They bring their data in, they give it to us through a SFTP process. We put the data on that staging table, then we grab from that table into Oracle. So we do have, but that's more in-house for us. The bank has that server, so there are no maintenance charges with regard to that from Oracle or anyone. So yeah, our bill has definitely changed for the better, our invoice. We do have to pay certain things for the ICS cloud. And of course, we also bought an additional dev development. We also bought in the cloud. It comes with one prod and one test instance. We bought an additional dev instance because we wanted 3. So it's up to you, but, and there is a little cost in there involved, but not that bad. It's reasonable from Oracle, so there has been some benefits in that. It's a lot nicer. Management is happy with the cost of the pricing and the licenses and so forth.
So one of the things, Dora, you mentioned during the discussion though was they have a very organized rollout of their updates, and so we get the update and then we have a little over a couple of weeks to test that before the prod is updated. The nice thing about that is Dora and her team, being in IT, had to always be the people who are, asking the users to test and to find out what the feedback is. Now that this is regimented, the users are very hands-on. They police themselves. They know. Dora has meetings prior to the updates into tests, but still they know that they have to finish this on time because we won't be pushing them off easily. So it's nice. It's taken that role of policing more from IT and put it into the business. And as I say, their business has been very responsive to that. So that's been another benefit of going to this process, going to the SaaS model.
Yep.
Nash?
All right, let me paraphrase this one a little bit, this question. So we all know that ERP implementations have a certain level of stress associated with them, Dora. Yeah, I'm maybe downplaying that a bit for our prospective customers. But, you know, did you find that by using this cloud model, was that stress alleviated as you went along versus what you experienced for your previous on-premise installations?
Actually, yes. And again, it is a little bit stressful because you have to go through the process and the planning and the project and testing and so forth, right? But again, you know, after we started getting into using it, we're like, hey, this is kind of nice. We just have a URL. We don't have, you know, anything that, you know, the biggest thing for us too, but that's IT and business, was Java. Java was always an issue for us because we'd have to upgrade to the current Java, and Oracle was always a little bit behind on the Java, so that was always a big thing. Now we don't have to worry about that. It's the cloud. We also had to worry about Discover Desktop or Discover. I don't know, a lot of you, if you use Discover reporting in EBS, you have the plus and the viewer, which come in the URL, but our team preferred the desktop version. And the desktop version included TNS and DBC files, and you had to put those onto the actual laptop or workstation and make sure you had the current version. And every time you upgraded or did patching, you got a newer version, and it was always more maintenance for us. Now we don't have to worry about that. Now it's all boom, cloud. You get in there and you run your reports. There are no other additional setups that we have to do. They do use an Excel version called SmartView, which is used in Hyperion Cloud as well. That's for the Hyperion Cube. That's just an Excel, like your Excel add-in, and it's the same thing as the add-in. So you might hear about that SmartView, but it's just an Excel version, and you just add the add-in, and they'll tell you how to add it and what to do. And then, of course, you know, you may have to use a certain browser like Chrome or Firefox. We use Firefox for the ERP Cloud, but that's about it. I mean, you know, the stress has definitely been alleviated with regard to all those setups and all the, you know, those things that we had to do in addition to maintaining the session. Also, like I said, even though the patching, again, like it's dictated by them, but it's definitely have been a good, we don't have to worry. We already know what the schedule is. We already know when it's coming. We already know when it's going to happen. You know, so there are no kind of weird things that come up that, oh, I have to, you know, worry about this or that. It's like, no, this is coming on this date, and boom, they're pretty, you know, true to their time frames, and we already know what to do. So definitely that has alleviated a lot of the stress as well. So as you start using it, you realize like, oh, okay, we don't have to do this anymore. I don't have to maintain here anymore. You know, so it's kind of nice. So, but you know, it's like any other app, right? You have your pros and cons, but for the most part, it's nice that it's hosted. It's on the cloud. So you don't have as much stress as you did with the EBS before, with all the hardware in-house, or even if it was hosted, but you still had to worry about a lot of the different, you know, like I said, like Java or TNS or DBC type things that now we don't have to worry about any of that.
Another,
Does that help?
Yes, another unexpected benefit, one that we would never have thought about in 2019, was COVID-19. If we had still been on an on-premises application, one of the many ways they connected was through Citrix, which was more maintenance than they would have to have done. But now with the SaaS model, their users were able to quickly shift from being in the office to working from home. I think Dora's biggest issue was making sure that they had laptops that could access the data. Whereas before they would have to have done that in addition to making sure that they had Citrix connections or that they had a way of going in, and they would not have had the flexibility that they gained from a SaaS model. So that was we never would have thought that would have been required, that their offices would have to be vacated, but they have, and they have not been in their offices since March, other than to maybe print a check here and there.
Yep, very good point. Yeah, and you're right. The other way we would have, and Citrix, unfortunately, is slow. I mean, I don't know, but for us, it tends to be a slower process. It tends to be, so the business would have been not too happy with that process.
No.
So now it's like we could just, like you said, the biggest challenge was just IT was buying laptops to make sure everybody had a laptop, because we had a good inventory of laptops, but now we had to get people, like, for all of our employees get a laptop. So it was a little bit, but other than that, once they got in, it would just click on the URL and they're good to go. It was like, so we didn't need any other type of setup, which was nice.
Okay. Nash, any other questions?
Sure. I got employees, like, how many locations are being managed, how many users within ERP Cloud, that sort of thing.
So we currently have roughly about, I'd say 18 to 1900 employees. We have approximately 71 branches, pretty much California up Southern and Northern California. And we have corporate offices, maybe about 4 or 5, including one in Denver. So our users are pretty much scattered. We have approximately, I would say, about 400 Oracle ERP users now. And then we have maybe out of those 400, I'd say about 60 to 80 that are like hardcore users, meaning accounting, fixed assets, AP, GL, procurement. So those would be the heavy duty users, and maybe a little more, because procurement alone has, I think, 100 users. So, but anyway, those are the heavy hitters, which we call our SMEs. And then after that, the remaining users are more the inquiry or just approver users. So they vary. We have management working, like I said, in Denver, working in LA, working up north in Fresno. So they're kind of all over the place. But we have a pretty good amount of users. We haven't had any problems maintaining the users. We all get our notification, because we have a 90-day password, set up. Our process now with our team is, if you haven't logged in within a 90-day period, they remove your user access, because we don't keep you if you haven't been in there. But most of our users have been, they're in there all the time. So we haven't brought our list down from the 400 users. It's moving along pretty good. Everybody seems to be using it without a problem.
Yeah, and they have reports that are widely distributed, and that's, I think, what Dora's talking about. A lot of the branches get daily and monthly and quarterly reports that are generated from the Oracle's ERP Cloud. So even though they're not frequent data entry people, they are frequent users of data, especially as it comes to, because they use the general ledger as a center point, and from that information is consolidated and distributed to the users. And that's one of the things that I think that actually became a little bit better when we switched to the SaaS model. I think that that information is better consolidated and better reported. I think the Oracle's business intelligence is more responsive than the previous Discover. Even though I love Discover, I think that Oracle's BI is certainly more intuitive to the users.
Yep. Yep, and it was able to. We like that feature with, like, now that you bring up those branch reports. That before we have an internal repository system from another our deposit and loan system. We have a repository system that goes with that, where our reports get fed into. But before the cloud, my team would have to somewhat disperse. If we had all the branches, we had to manually disperse, like, because we didn't want to send all our branches all the information. It's just per branch. So now with the BI, it does it automatically in the cloud, which is nice. So we don't have to manually break out, cost center 1, cost center 2, cost center 3. It does it automatically. And then it feeds into our repository system, which then the branches can just go and retrieve their data for their branch only, which is really nice.
Yes. We have about 2 minutes left or 3 minutes left. Nash, anything else?
That is it from my end, Dick.
Okay. Well, then it's good timing. Well,
Yep.
Thank you very much for attending. And of course, Dora, thank you. And Nash, thank you for working on this webinar. As I mentioned, we have recorded this webinar and we will be posting it onto our YouTube. And for those people who have attended, we will be letting you know when it's been posted. It will also be a link on our webpage, which is ctrworld.com. And it will be there, so you will be able to see it, as well as we have a few other webinars that we've done that it's in the same channel. So again, thank you very much for attending and have a great rest of the day and a good rest of the week. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.